candidate will come up, alphabetical order. I'll look at my graphical information about them, and they can speak for 7 minutes. At the end of the 7 minutes, we'll have Anna Elizabeth Delahanty. She is our governmental affairs chairperson this year. We'll ask 2 questions. At the end of that, then we'll go ahead and we'll start out with the next candidate.
So I am a strong proponent of tax reform, and it will be a key component of what my platform is as we move forward, not only in unveiling it, but how I will lead as governor of this state to ensure, without question, that we are no longer losing out to people like Tennessee, or increasingly other states around us like Indiana, and even now Ohio and others, over issues as fundamental as tax structure.
Thank you. And if you're elected governor, what's one thing you will do to improve real estate in Kentucky?
Well, I've got 9 kids. I'm doing the best I can. I'll tell you that right now. I mean, there's a lot of future little buyers there.
The media seems to be following Jack Conway's lead and treating you like you're not a part of the campaign. Have you filed your candidacy papers?
Yes, I filed papers with running mate Jonathan Masters on January 27th, exactly 7 days ago. Since that time, I've challenged Jack Conway to debates on 2 serious issues in Kentucky, racism and what was the other issue? Energy policy. What was it? Racism and...
There's a bunch of them. You have
a couple issues.
Racism, abortion, energy policy, death penalty, and...
Death penalty. I challenged Conway to a debate on the death penalty, and I've gotten no word from his campaign.
So let's go ahead and begin. First up today will be Matt Bevins. Matt grew up in a small rural town in New England. He graduated from Washington and Lee University in Virginia with a 4-year ROTC scholarship. Upon graduation in 1989, Matt served 4 years in the U.S. Army, ultimately rising to the rank of captain. After his military service, Matt worked for many years in the financial industry. In early 1999, a job opportunity, National Asset Management, brought Matt and his wife Glenna to Kentucky.
And one more question.
Yes.
If elected governor, what is one thing you will do to improve real estate in the Commonwealth?
Well, I talked earlier, the most important thing is to grow the economy. We have to grow the economy in Kentucky. Many of you saw last summer we had a $91 million shortfall in the state budget. And you need to look behind those numbers for just a minute, where that comes from. Was it just a bad estimate? Well, what we see is they projected revenue to go up 2%, about at the rate of inflation, when in fact our economy only grew at 0.9%. Revenue grew at 0.9% in Kentucky, less than the rate of inflation. We cannot stay where we are. So certainly, from a job growth standpoint, putting Kentucky in the top 10 states in the country in business climate, we have to be about that day one.
Of what's at stake in this race. But I will touch briefly on a couple of things. Number one, I did grow up in a pretty rural environment. I grew up in the country, a town of 250 people. My parents moved there in the late 60s and bought a house and a barn and a bunch of land for $20,000 and raised a family of 8 in it. And it was a good way to grow up, but I appreciate firsthand the value of what it means to own a home and how significant a part of the core of a family and of the American dream that really is.
But I'll give you one more specific area, and something that I have seen in my years in business, both on the engineering side and on the business park growth side. And that is an approach in the regulatory environment that's very much a take a seat approach. And that's not what I say. I've had the opportunity to work in other states as well, 4 other states. And there's a big difference state to state. And the best states are the ones where it's a partnership approach. You still have to go by the rules and regulations and pay the fees. But it's a partnership approach to help you quickly through the process.
And we grew pretty much everything we ate on our own land, had animals for a variety of things, meat, eggs, milk, etc. And it was a good way to live. And it was a good, simple, humble way to grow up. But we were talking, earlier I was speaking with Molly about the fact that sometimes when you grow up in a small town, you grow up, you move away, and there's nothing to bring you back again. And a strong economy is critical in every environment for there to be the kind of economic activity that creates the opportunity for your business to thrive.
There's multiple regulations that are enforced both at the local level and at the state level. So you get local approval, and then it's another 2, 4, 6 weeks to get state approval on something that is essentially a rubber stamp. We need to look at those kind of regulations and make sure we have a streamlined process and change the culture in Frankfurt to one of partnership with the businesses throughout the state to get them through the process quickly. The regulatory reform, cultural reform would be a big item.
Thank you.
Okay. Good.
Next up, we have Dorothy Scott. William Thomas Scott is a former Associate Justice of Kentucky Supreme.
And you all have as much of your finger on the pulse of what it takes to be a part of the American dream as any industry that exists. And you know that. I'm preaching to the choir in some regards. I was able to pay my own way through college, went to W&L as was noted, joined the military. That was a fantastic experience. And I'm grateful for the chance to have served active duty for a number of years. But I've been out for 20-some years. I bought my first home when I was 23 years old. I still own that home, believe it or not. And have rented it out, and it's been a good experience. But I have always appreciated and valued how critical, how important it is to have that ability to tie yourself to the fabric of this nation through home ownership. I understand that there are things that are at stake for us in this state and in this country. We know that to be true. I could sit here and take the remainder of my 7 minutes talking about all the...
Thank you very much. It's great to be back to the Kentucky Association of Realtors. I look out in the crowd, I see a lot of friendly faces that I've worked with over the years. Appreciate the invitation to be back, and I appreciate this forum. As a small businessman and a major landowner, speculator, I really appreciate a good real estate agent. I look out into the crowd and I see a lot of good realtors here, and I know how important those are to the industry.
And the fact that we're so significantly underfunded. I've spent the majority of my life in the investment business. I do own all or part of 10 different companies, ranging from base level manufacturing to software to investment management to medical devices. I employ scores of people, millions of dollars in payroll. I say that not to you for any reason other than the fact that I'm blessed to be a person who's had these opportunities, and every single day I understand where the rubber meets the road. I understand the impact of overregulation. I understand personally what it means to meet a payroll and for people to worry about whether or not they're going to be able to afford another home. I can tell you this much, and you know it. There's no homes that get sold when people are not economically sure-footed. If they don't have economic stability or don't feel good about where they are economically, there's not a lot of business transaction happening in the real estate marketplace. I understand that firsthand. I know what it's like to live below the poverty level, and I've been blessed to live above it as well. I've seen the spectrum. My running mate, Janine Hampton, is extraordinary. She paid her way through college, got a degree in industrial engineering while working full-time at General Motors. She went on to join the military, was an active duty Air Force officer for 7 years, including being deployed in the first Gulf War. Got her MBA at a top business school. She has worked for 2 decades in the packaging industry, including being a plant manager, a production manager, being involved in sales. She's a black woman who brings a perspective to this state, and to this party, and to this race, the likes of which has frankly been a long time in coming. But she is as gifted and as educated and as qualified as anybody on any of the tickets you're going to hear from. And she is somebody who I'm honored to have running with me. She lives in Bowling Green. We will be unrolling in the months ahead exactly where we stand on all these things we've discussed. And I would be grateful for your consideration. I really would. I'd be grateful for your looking at our candidacy, at my candidacy to stand for governor for the state of Kentucky. This is an extraordinary Commonwealth. We know that. But what's going to allow us to keep what has made us great in the past, to keep us strong as we go forward, who will carry that torch? I'm volunteering to be that person. And I would be grateful for your consideration. I really would. Thank you very much. and I appreciate you having this forum where we could speak.
Not a word. I proposed several dates where we might have a debate sponsored ideally by the Kentucky Democratic Party, but apparently he's not interested in debating the issues. And I call that unethical because it means that he wants the Democratic voters of Kentucky not to be informed about who their choice is.
The media seems to be parroting everything Jack Conway is saying. And if you were to look at the Herald Ledger and the Courier Journal, I think this is going to be a worldwide election. I think the whole world actually is watching. There's nothing else going on this year. There's only 3 governor's races. And you were able to get 40% of the vote with your congressional campaign pretty much in the same fashion. So I don't know if there's a question here.
There is.
I believe
when
I believe in you.
for Congress in Kentucky's 6th District against Andy Barr 1 year ago, my Democratic rival at that time also avoided ever appearing with me at a debate. Except the last, during the last couple weeks, the KET had its forum. That wasn't a debate either. And what she was doing was the same unethical campaign tactic that Jack Conway is using, is to pile up money and pretend that you have no opponent.
What could be?
I got 39%.
What could be the downfall of having a debate with you? If you're Jack Conway, what would be the downfall of talking about the issues with another? Have to wake them up. So that's why I'm in the race, to wake them up.
Jeff, if you win this race, then Jonathan would be just a heartbeat away from the governor's office. Do you feel he's qualified?
I do.
Why?
He has a deep understanding of the major issues facing Kentucky.
And what are those?
They are racism, class warfare of the richest and most powerful 1% of the population against all the rest of us, the 99%, abortion, in which the Republican Party has taken a completely immoral position and written into its platform since 1980, and energy and the environment, where we need to develop a more sustainable
opponent, the only Democratic contender. If you're to put yourself...
I'm the only progressive Democrat running for governor this year. And I think the downside for Conway is simply that he wouldn't be able to pretend he has no opponent anymore. He would have to actually engage in the issues. I think it's a problem because I think Conway lost to Rand Paul in 2010 because he failed and refused to engage with Rand Paul on the issues. And the Kentucky voters ended up going to the polls and not knowing who Jack Conway was. They still don't know. He still hasn't said anything that affects the lives of Kentuckians.
Could you say you're the Occupy Rand Paul?
What?
Is it you're like Rand Paul's sort of rode the Tea Party to victory, and so kind of attacked Conway from a different perspective. So I wondered, like,
I'm interested in the votes of, one, Democrats who want to win, Democrats who want to keep a Democratic governor in office. With Jack Conway, he's a sure loser. He hasn't learned how to run a campaign. He hasn't learned how to engage the issues.
You think he'd be scared? You think he'd be scared too?
He's scared. He's scared. He's taken a number of issues in past campaigns which are, frankly, immoral. He supported George W. Bush and Dick Cheney when they wanted to invade Iraq. Jack Conway was right there, running for Congress, saying that he supported that invasion.
I mean, and beyond that, here's what I know. I love real estate. I say this not to be gratuitous. I own a number of properties, ranging from single-family homes to including the first home I ever bought that I now rent, and some other properties as well that I rent, all the way up to buildings of 100,000 square feet inside. I love real estate. I understand it. It's always been intriguing to me because it really touches on the absolute core of what makes our nation unique in many respects. It really does. And in Kentucky in particular, we have 71